And there's been a lot of talk over the past week or so over Donald Trump's victory. How big was it actually, considering we've been getting votes and trickle in some more from different states, not even just California, by the way. I saw a new vote dump in Mississippi that was pro Kamala. It's coming in from all over the place. Who knows how it's taken them this long, but it does seem like, at least looking at this, California is finally basically fully reported here. They're at 99% reported. Oregon's at 97, Washington's at 99. Those were kind of the three holdouts there. Arizona, it's been reported they're fully done. And there was the question, would Donald Trump get above 50%, under 50%? Well, it looks like he will get right around 50%. Kamala Harris at 48.4. So that is a 1.6% win for Donald Trump. And I do believe that is officially what it's going to finally end at. Because we were wondering, and it was looking like it was going to be around a 1.8 point win. Then it came down. It came down a little bit more. And now finally we've got it 1.6 point win. And liberals saying, well, he's under 50%. He doesn't get a mandate. This was certainly a resounding victory for Trump. And the craziest thing was, let alone all the swing states going for Trump, it was more so the Texas, the Florida, the New Jersey, the New York, the swings that we saw in those states. Remember, Donald Trump lost the popular vote by 4 points, over 4 points in 2020, to see that crazy swing in 2024. Remember, liberals argued about Biden getting a mandate in 2020 when he won by 40,000 votes in total. He barely won states. It took him like 4 days before they finally flipped it. He won Georgia by like 10 votes, literally. He won Arizona by like 0.3. And they say he should get a mandate even though he got less electoral votes than Trump. Trump got more. Trump won every swing state. And then they say, well, the popular vote, that's the reason for the mandate. When in reality, no, it's we decided by the Electoral College. Trump got more electoral votes than Biden did at 312. And by the way, he was pretty close to getting more in just the swings in some of these states. That's what we're really going to look at. But it does look like we finally have the number. Trump 50%. 50.0%, by the way, because that's important, because if it was like 50.1, obviously the margin would be higher than 1.6% difference. But it's going to be about 1.6%, it looks like. That would be my estimation. Donald Trump finishing just under 77 million overall votes. Kamala Harris at 74.3. Remember, Biden was at 81, so that's about a 7 million decrease for Kamala Harris, and that's going to be a lot of the liberal cope going into 2028. It's going to be, well, Trump didn't win. We just didn't draw people. You know, we didn't have the enthusiasm behind our campaign. We still have more voters. That's going to be their cope for sure going into 2028. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. But going to this, you've got this Harris HQ admitting that Kamala was never up in her internal poll. And this really tracks with the rumors that we were hearing when it comes to anything related to internal polls. Every time I heard a rumor related to internal polls, it was positive for Trump or just negative against Harris. It would be like, well, Kamala's campaign or the Harris HQ, they don't love where they're at. Or it would be like the Trump team, they love their internal numbers. And now you've got their own HQ after the election doing an autopsy saying, yeah, she was losing the entire time. They said their own internal numbers had Wisconsin going to Trump by a point, and it was right on. And normally the internal polls are more accurate, and those same internal polls that the Democrats had, they were suggesting that Biden would have lost with Trump getting about 400 electoral votes, winning New Jersey and winning possibly New York State. And so that's how bad it's gotten. We've also got liberals, these liberal women. They go out like on this Kamala retreat. They go to Lake Michigan. They just start screaming at the top of their lungs. And then they do like this ritual where they all get into a circle. It's just very, very strange. But why are they like going out to Lake Michigan to start screaming? I mean, this is something that I've seen liberal women. They have these meetups and they just go out in the forest and just scream. And it's like supervised with other like liberal women supervising them and watching over. It's like the queen bitch is watching over all of them. And this is, I mean, it looks like there's a dude right there, though. But this is apparently a liberal Kamala meetup. And then they've got like a worship circle coming up. Hold on.
Yeah.
And there it is right there. Oh, but I mean, they're really struggling with the election loss. Breaking with almost all the votes counted. Like, how many more votes are there left to count? We can say all the votes have been counted. Every state has shifted towards the Republican Party, which, well, listen, this is relative to 2020. 2020 was a very good year in terms of the popular vote for the Democrats. So it's not surprising there was always going to be a shift to the right. There was no way Kamala was going to win the popular vote by 4 points. And by the way, it surprises me. I thought Utah and Oregon both shifted to the left slightly. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Also, maybe Washington as well. It looks like these states in here, Kansas is one that we'll see what happens with Kansas, but Kansas is slightly becoming more liberal. Oklahoma, it's so Republican, it can't go any more Republican. That's the only reason why it's not more red. But look at the big population areas. This is why Trump is able to win the popular vote after losing it by 4 points. California, Texas, Florida, New York, they're all bright red, meaning they shifted the most to the right out of any of these states, which is pretty remarkable. Would you look at that Iowa? What happened? Remember that poll? Also, Illinois even. Illinois shifted a bit. What was Illinois? I think the final margin in Illinois ended up being like 10 or 11 points. That's a shame because it was 8 points. We remember with like 95% in, and then I guess the last 5% causes a 3-point shift to the Democrats. But there is that. I mean, why did the Democrats even tweet this out? They're like trying to embarrass this woman. Vice President Kamala Harris, drunk, shows message to supporters is what they said. The Democrats are admitting she's drunk during this. They're saying VP Harris, after downing a bottle of wine during dinner, has a little message. This appears to be genuine. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. We've also got this. Pennsylvania may be the next Ohio in terms of battleground status. According to AP, Pennsylvania might be leaving the ranks of up-for-grabs swing states for a right-leaning existence more like Ohio's. And so, yeah, I have a hard time believing this, honestly. I mean, if you look at the Rust Belt, the Ohio shift, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, I can understand not every state is going to be the same, but why would Ohio shift so far to the right to the point where now Republicans win by double digits? Trump won by 11 points. And maybe that's just because Kamala was such a bad candidate and the Democrats had just a disheveled campaign. I mean, you look at other states like New York and Florida and the margins are just so crazy. But still, I mean, Trump won the state by 8 points in both 2016 and 2020, and 2020 was not a good environment for Republicans, and Trump still won it by 8 points. So how is there that big of a shift in comparison to something like Pennsylvania, which is right to its east? It does surprise me that Pennsylvania also wouldn't at least be like a 4 or 5 point margin. But the reason I would hold off on calling Pennsylvania the next Ohio as a Republican state, we didn't see the margin. Like you would expect if New York and New Jersey swung the way they did, Trump would be able to win Pennsylvania by like 5 or 6 points. But remember, these things do happen very rapid. Obama won Ohio in 2008 and 2012, and then Trump won it by 8 points in 2016. So that was a rapid shift. So I'm not saying Trump's going to, or the Republicans, Vance is going to win Pennsylvania by 8 points in 2028, but it can happen quickly. And there are parallels to those two states in specific, and it always just surprised me. But listen, if this ends up happening, this would be a death blow to the Democrats. I mean, especially with the idea of making New Jersey a swing state. You know, liberals tried their hand at Texas. We saw Trump totally shut that down. Now it's like a Republican state for sure. They've tried Kansas. They've tried making it more center, Kansas. They've tried Iowa, and it just hasn't happened. But imagine Pennsylvania and Ohio and Florida become more Republican-type states. The electoral math, especially with the changing in terms of the electoral votes, leaving California and going to Texas because of the population change, it's going to be very, very hard for them to win these elections without significantly cutting into some of these Republican states, like trying to take back in Ohio, which seems almost impossible at this point, at least when it comes to 2028, based off of Ohio's last 3 election cycles, the way they voted. And could Pennsylvania be next on that list? I don't know. Again, with the margins, with winning the popular vote, you would have liked to have seen a 3.5, 4, 5 point margin, something like that in Pennsylvania. We just didn't see it. With the final margin, I think it was 1.8, 1.9, which is good enough. I mean, you'll take that, especially for a Rust Belt state. I mean, those states are very, very close. The idea with Pennsylvania being around a 2-point victory, if it was very close to where it was like within a point, they probably wouldn't have called it on election night, and we would have had to have waited. The only reason that we got the election called was because of the margin there. Wisconsin was a little bit weird with the way they called it when Trump was up by 3, and then the final votes came in and it really tightened Wisconsin to the point where I think it closed under a point difference. Trump only won that state by like 0.9 Wisconsin, which surprises me. I thought Wisconsin would be more Republican, especially in this environment where Trump wins the popular vote and only loses New York by 12 points, only loses New Jersey by 6 points. But I would hold off with Pennsylvania. I just, you would have liked to have seen more of a shift in Pennsylvania than 1.9 points, especially in an environment where Trump is winning the popular vote and performing better pretty much across the board, as I just showed, relative to 2020. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.